Sorry, I'm a little bit tired. I had a little cat nap and kind of hung over and everything. So.
Well, yeah. And you have a kid, so it's
and the kid.
understandable.
And the kid, let me tell you. Well, all right. This is BlissVille, Misadventures in BlissVille, and tonight we have Scott Frank. I met Mr. Frank at my wedding nearly 15 years ago. We're all older, yeah. Some of us even wiser. Definitely not me. I think what I lack in wisdom, I more than make up for in burgeoning psychosis. Who wrote this? I don't think I wrote this. First, I want to say happy birthday. Your birthday was last week. Unfortunately, by the time this airs, Mr. Frank will be receiving his first Social Security check. I apologize sincerely for the lag between recording and airing these episodes. If I can explain, I'm on a new system now. Before, I was using equipment not terribly suited to computer recording and podcasting. I used these very old lavalier microphones plugged into a mini disc recorder and recorded twice. So once on the computer and once my own voice going into the recorder.
Wow, that's so 2014 of you to do that.
Yeah, it is. But, the damn things, they still work, This old technology still works. I'd have to real-time re-record the mini-disc into the computer, combine the files in a sound editing program, and it would take days to do this. But now, I'm happy to say I have these two new microphones. They sound wonderful. How am I coming through over there?
You were coming through great over here, better than I thought.
What are you using to send your voice back to me there?
I'm using just a high-dense audio headset, and I've got a mic coming down off the side.
Oh, it's like one of those gamer type things?
Sort of, but it's not for really games. It gives me commands when I'm doing 3D design.
Gotcha.
Tilt.
What's the brand?
Hold on, let me take my earphones off.
Okay, he has to look at the brand on the thing.
This is an Auspex 10.
I
know, it's Auspex 10, and it's
That sounds like one of those Korean knockoffs, Scott. I'd be a little bit worried about that.
I'm waiting for the electrocution to come through at any time now.
I bought, it was such a mistake, because I got like a nice Best Buy gift card for Christmas from Bronwyn's family, right? Go down there, and they have nothing. All they had was this $50 Logitech headset microphone thing, and it's terrible. It was terrible.
Yeah.
And then I was talking to, I forgot who it was, Mark Giacomo at VHS Rewind. I was telling him there's something wrong with this microphone I bought, and he was like, just put it back in the box and get your money back. And I was like, I don't like to do that. I consider it rude. I don't know. Why should I punish them for my ignorance?
True, very true. And if the world was like that, we'd be a better place.
Yeah.
Well, we'd have less returns. Okay.
We would, but the people at the Best Buy, they really don't know their job. They don't know anything about the products they're selling. I said I'd like a USB microphone, and the guy looks at me for like 2 minutes, and he's turning it over in his head, and he comes back to me and says, "Is that the kind of thing you talk into?" I'm like, yes, sir, it is. Wonderful.
Usually found in the medical supplies, yes.
Yeah.
I liked Best Buy because when I did work at my last job in electronics, they made me look so good. It was amazing.
Yeah. Right.
The guy at Best Buy said that the guy at Best Buy is retarded. Okay? So let's move on.
Yeah. But unfortunately, moving back to the city, it makes it harder to accept packages. When we were upstate, they would just leave the boxes like right on your door. Nobody gave a crap, right?
Yeah.
But here,
right.
They won't do that. So you have to go into the post office. You have to argue with these people. It's just it's very frustrating. Ooh. So these mics I got sound good. So it'll be a lot easier to finish and edit these episodes, get them out there. So I am maybe on a technical level wiser. Would you say that you're wiser?
I think with just how many, what exactly is out there, but how to use it, I think you've got me. If that makes any sense, yeah. Well, it made sense to me, so okay.
Well, if it makes sense to you, that's fine. Just good luck translating it for your friends and neighbors when they listen to this.
Yeah, they of course will just go, it's Scott talking.
I wrote an article last week for VHS Rewind, The Sleep of the Happy, Defining Nerd for the New Generation. It was my contention that nerds no longer exist, that the culture is open now, so inclusive that it's very hard to single people out based on their interests and then call them nerds. I thought I would share a story with you.
Okay.
Now, I was called a nerd a long time ago. This had to be 1985, like 8th grade or something close to that. I had a couple of bullies in my life, but the strangest had to be this Korean kid. He was a psychological torture bully. He would pick me out of a crowd and proceed to deride me, insult me, whatever he could do, but I didn't understand. So I never considered myself a nerd. I went to a school that was predominantly white. I fit right in for the most part. I didn't get good grades. I slacked off. I'd even cut out of school. I wore the same kinds of clothes everybody else wore. But this didn't stop my bully. He would go out of his way to taunt me for some reason. He seemed obsessed with the idea of making me feel like shit, so I didn't get it. This kid grew up in... From what I understand, he grew up in a poor neighborhood, mostly black people, so he adopted some of the lingo, some of the slang, tried to behave as though he were a black kid. It didn't really work because he still had his Korean accent, so he sounded rather silly trying to mimic that behavior. He'd be like, look at this nerd over here, he's such a nerd, and he would say it like loudly. Nobody really like joined in or anything. It wasn't like, you know, a scene from Carrie. They kind of looked at him and then went about their business. This is junior high. Young people are preoccupied. So this kid had to be like 5 feet 5 inches. I wasn't much taller at the time. He was the only Korean kid in the whole school, and yet he picks me out of a crowd. He decides I'm not worth leaving alone. He called me a nerd constantly. He would do this in the middle of class. One time, it was a science class. I believe it was my old teacher, Mr. Y. He was great. He was a favorite of mine. I have another story about him I'll save for later. But I didn't like many of the classes, but I did like science. Anyway, he's giving a lecture. I'm trying to hear it, but this Korean kid sitting across from me would not stop talking about how I was such a nerd. He went on and on. Finally, I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Shut up." Right. This was too much for him. What with this insolent nerd, I guess, giving him the business. He stood up and tried to take a swing at me, like open palm, not even like a sucker punch. I moved out of the way and he missed. He was absolutely furious. His face was red and he was sweating. I don't know what happened after that. I think he might have been sent to the office because he made such a big show about trying to smack me. But after that, I don't think I ever saw him again. It was weird. So, even more strange for me, at least thinking about it now, as an outsider, somebody just trying to fit into the culture, adopting whatever behavior would allow him to go unnoticed, but sticking out like a sore thumb. It occurs to me he would have been the subject of torment. He would have been the nerd. Instead, he turned it outward to me, and if I want to get psychological for a moment, he made me the source of his rage. So what I want to ask you for, did you ever have any bullies in school?
Oh, yeah. I think primarily because I either had a... you said you liked science, right?
Yeah.
In going through school. At any
Let's
time,
just say I wasn't bored by it.
Okay. At any time, were you seen with a book of any type other than...
No, not really. I mean, we carried our backpacks around. We had our books in our backpack. We didn't carry like our books around. We all had to carry our backpacks around for the most part. Okay.
Because I remember nerd was defined as, when I went through school, reader or lover of science. That's why I wondered about why he would jump on you like that. I was like, well, if you got spotted with a book, yeah, you'd be you were a nerd because you like to read.
Yeah. That's like I said, I didn't really stick out like a sore thumb. I mean, I looked pretty much like everybody else there. I mean,
you blended. Very nice.
I suppose. I mean, it was just sort of the way I was. I mean, we all, we were all dressed in jeans and T-shirts or sweaters in the winter. Very few of us wore glasses. I mean, there were bigger candidates for the word. I mean, there were like these tiny little kids who wore glasses or something like that. Right. They didn't really like make fun of any. I don't know what I had. Maybe I emanated a scent that said, just make this guy's life horrible.
Mm-hmm. Were you like pretty popular with the...
Not really, no. I mean, I had like 3 or 4 friends. We all kind of stuck together, you know. It was like that. I mean, and we weren't like, well, I mean, I was like probably shy around the pretty girls, that kind of stuff.
Okay, geek. No.
It's very nice. So,
Um,
what was your situation?
I just was always having a book in my hand, comic book, D&D module, or sci-fi book. So
Right.
that nailed me as a nerd right there, a lover of reading and everything.
Right.
Didn't help that I always hung out with the drama people, or theater people, excuse me.
But you hung
Sorry.
out with people. You were in a group. You were in a group situation.
Yeah, I wasn't a loner or anything like that. I had a good 5 or 6 solid friends that I always hung around with.
Right.
But as a group, we were considered back then it was the geeks. Yeah, that we're talking like 82 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. I'm older, sorry. And yeah, we were considered the geeks, the nerds. But yeah, if we gave a damn, we gave a shit. Really, we didn't really care about that. Yeah, oh, you put a label on me. Big deal.
Yeah.
Which was good to have, safety in numbers. Facing that, being called nerd and things like that, by like when you were pointed out, that would really suck, dude.
Yeah. Especially, being
By something that, who was obviously trying to redirect because he looked so different or was different.
So I probably hit it then with the psychological underpinning of it. This is all I have to go on because I mean, like I did have a proper bully at one point, and I'll always remember him. His name is Frank Passio, and he was huge and muscular, and he used to.
Wow, that is a bullying name right there. That is
It really does sound like it, doesn't it? And
did his parents like? He's going to be a bully. We'll name him that. We'll name him Frank.
I mean, if he caught me alone, that's usually when he would attack. He was a physical bully. I mean, he used to punch me in the face, punch me in the stomach. He used to do all kinds of horrible things to me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird how I remember his name. I don't really remember the Korean kid's name because I don't think I ever got the name.
Cho Smith? I don't know. Let's call him Cho Smith. That sounds good.
I wanted to say Jun or something, Jun or something like that.
That sounds good.
So you're working. This is an effortless segue, by the way. Now you're
that's
working design.
Plow on through.
3-dimensional design and printing. The first thing I wanted to get your take on the flap, the controversy surrounding 3-dimensional printing. Basically, the premise that you can replicate weapons, guns, and knives, like Robert Patrick in Terminator 2. Shapes that scare kids. So, what's going on here?
Okay. To the world, I will 3D replicate any type of projectile weapon you want me to design, but be warned, you're going to sign a release that says I'm not responsible for when you pull this trigger and blow your index finger off, because that will happen. The plastic, the tech, and the resolution is not there for this stuff. And it's going to cost you like $800 to produce one of these.
How much is the now with this printer and with the materials that you use to print? How much is the cost of those materials?
We are currently $15 per cubic inch.
15 per cubic. So let's see. What do they give you? They give you like a sheet or a block of this stuff, and then it's a spool.
It's plastic ABS. What they call it is ABS extraction. What happens is
it's the kind of stuff that's used for drainage tubing, right? That kind
of
stuff.
It looks very much like that. It comes in a 50-foot spool, 50-foot long spool of plastic, and as it's being put out onto the plotter, it's being superheated at about 200 degrees, so it lays down this liquid. And that is how it works.
They had like something similar to this a few years back, some kind of a thing called a fabrication unit, right? And it made vacuum formed images and things like that.
Right. That
And it
is,
used superheated plastic.
yep, that is more of a what they call a face-down form, as I recall it. It would basically make your negative space and then lay that piece of plastic down on it.
So you're taking a decidedly libertarian approach with this, basically saying, if you agree to do something, it's not my responsibility if you go and do something stupid with it.
People have have contacted me and said, I want to make a prop gun. Fine, I'll make you a prop gun, but you know what? If you paint it black, don't come back at me when the police arrest you.
Yeah.
They know that. Every project. Another concern with 3D printing is the copyright problem. Where is the line on that? I want a Captain America figure. No, I'm not going to print you out a Captain America figure. Right. Sorry. I just straight cut that off. But there is a lot of people who do that. And it's the designer's responsibility to know what is copyrighted and what is dangerous.
Well, you can create a whole network of new bootleggers out there with this technology.
Yep, and thankfully, being around what's called the resin heads, people who prior to 3D printing dealt with resin, and they would build models with that. And they get bootleggers too.
I know about those because I had to. I have a nice collection of old Star Wars figures, and they had no weapons. And I went to eBay, and eBay has this whole group of people who make replacement weapons for these figures. So I had to go and pay for them, and they were called resin people. Yep,
resin heads. The dark side of resin heads, basically.
So do you remember a movie called In the Line of Fire with Clint Eastwood and John Malkovich?
Yes.
Now, in the movie, Malkovich, portraying an assassin, fabricates a gun made from plastic so they can get it through metal detectors in airports or wherever. It comes in pieces, and he snaps it together and tests it on a poor redneck who was killed only for being curious. Now, this is something that is what he designed. I mean, it's just basic. At its most basic, it's a very deceptively simple design. Just a couple of things he snaps together, and suddenly it fires bullets.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty much a zip gun is what he built. Yeah.
So how detailed, how intricate can you get with this printing process?
You can. I admit I did do the design just to see what would happen, and threw it by my co-owner, Kay.
Okay.
And we both agreed that if you are very fortunate, you will get one shot off with the accuracy of a 15th century muzzle loader.
Cool.
Which means if you're within 5 feet, you're going to hit them. Anything else, it's not going to work. So they're very inaccurate, very close distance. And the chances, yes, you're going to blow your index finger off right above your second knuckle.
Okay.
It's just going to take it out.
That the technology is not quite there yet. Maybe
it's not
a few
there.
More years?
A few more years, I would be worried, and the mechanism to actually get it to fire is detectable. It has to be metal, just the way a firearm works.
Right.
There is nothing you can put on the hammer. You can't put a piece of plastic there to hit the pin. It just doesn't hit hard enough to do it.
Okay.
So that's the stickler point right there. It's like, look, you would have to stick a piece of metal there to hit the primer. That's how firearms work. And
right.
People are like, oh no, it's a hard plastic would work. No.
So there was some controversy generated from the fact that as of right now, the three-dimensional printing utilizes toxic materials, creates burn-off, and it's hazardous to the environment. Something. What do you think about that? Is that true?
For particular ones, yes, but all of those come with venting systems. So if you, for some reason, want to run without the venting system on, go to, and you're going to be dead by 55 due
Okay.
to,
So
it's
like a
like,
little mesothelioma for the
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Something that
It,
really gets into your lungs and stays there forever, like what Steve McQueen died of.
yeah. Um,
So
uh,
sometimes you'll post your designs. You're interested in the inner workings of old technology. I've noted this. I don't want to say steampunk, but you're into like cogs, filters, gauges. So it's like steam plastic. This is a plastic base, right?
yep.
So now I sent you some pictures. I'm gonna put them up on the thing when I'm done with when I post this episode. I'm gonna put these pictures up. They're great artistic renderings of what the main characters from Star Wars would look like in a steampunk design. What did you think of those?
I thought they were fantastic.
You'd never
I
seen them before?
No, I never saw those.
It's
I just came home today, clicked it on, and went, "Oh my goodness, Dave loves me. Thank you."
I was so amazed by those drawings that I was inspired to try and do some kind of a steampunk science fiction thing, right? But
Yep.
it seemed like every idea I had turned out to be the Wild Wild West, so I dropped it.
Yes.
But I'm seeing a lot more of steampunk influence in the pop culture. I think it started for me with, there was this movie. It was based on children's books. I think it was Lemony Snicket's Series of Unfortunate Events. The look and the set design and the costumes were very steampunk, and I did enjoy it. I mean, that's, to me, I really wish people would dress like that. I really do.
I'm sitting here with a top hat. What are you talking about?
You're wearing the top hat right now.
Yeah, I'm wearing
Sorry.
the top hat. Yeah, of course I am.
That's cool. I can't wear hats. I mean, I wear, I have a baseball cap. That's about all I got. I don't really wear hats.
Then you need a bowler.
No,
Trust me.
if I
Trust
have
me.
a bowler, then I'm too close to growing a handlebar mustache. I don't know about that.
Okay, ask Bronwyn about that one first. Yeah.
Okay, I will later. Anyway,
Yep.
have you, okay. Speaking of Star Wars, have you seen the new Star Wars teaser trailer?
As you were calling, I was watching it to get a refresher. I saw it when it first came out and went, "Ooh, okay." I'm excited for 90 seconds of it and terrified of what the other 88 and a half minutes will be. I really am.
Okay, elaborate. I mean, I don't know. I didn't, I'm gonna be, apparently, I'm gonna be crucified for this one, but I didn't really like the teaser at all.
I found it fascinating in a way of a warm milkshake when you really want ice cream. That's how I put that down
A
as.
warm
I was like,
milkshake. Wow.
yeah. It
That
was
is
like,
a hell of an analogy right there.
thank you.
I'm going to be in the minority, I'm sure, but it was just a couple of special effects shots. That all it seemed to me. The only item that raised my eyebrows was the black stormtrooper. I thought that was very interesting. Evidently,
Yes.
no more clones of Tamora Morrison or anything.
You are right. When he sat up on that, I was like, oh, okay. Cool.
The problem is, I think that J.J. Abrams doesn't inspire my confidence. I think he's a very good producer, he's a fair writer, and he's a terrible film director. But maybe he'll surprise me. That it's like there's no substance for me. I mean, even with George Lucas, who is really more of a photographer than a film director, there was that avant-garde philosophy, the feel of the original Star Wars and the personality of it. But Abrams started as a writer for television. He became a producer. So he's excellent at assembling ideas and picking the right people to work with, but execution, he leaves a lot to be desired.
I can totally agree with that. It's Star Wars, or excuse me, Star Trek. Beautiful movie. Where did it go? I don't know. It just kind of went around.
It just didn't seem. I can't really watch the second one. I watched the first one, right?
Right.
And yeah, you're right. It looks great. There's a lot of lens flares, though. I don't really get that. But
Well, he'll be on Tatooine this time, so he can do all the lens flares.
Apparently.
He wants, I think we're going to see a lot of that.
I mean, great visual effects, right? But not really a Star Trek movie. I mean, it had all the trappings of it. It had, a dude with pointy ears. It had the uniforms. It had the
Circular disc. Yep.
the terminology and all the starships and all that, but not Star Trek. This was like an action movie. It was an action movie, lots of visual effects. Everything that Star Trek is, going through the television franchise, it's not that kind of a product. It's more, morality fables. I when I go to bed every night, I turn on Star Trek on the TV, keep it down volume low, and I sleep listening to the dialogue that I grew up listening to for.
Oh, yeah.
I listen to. We watch the original Star Trek. We watch Next Generation. We watch. Brownman never really got into Voyager or Deep Space Nine, but I'm trying to work that with her. And even Enterprise. I mean, but it's a television show. So, what that means is it's very dialogue dependent. It's dependent on telling its stories in a moral and philosophical way.
Yep.
And it just happens to have phasers and warp speed and that kind of stuff.
And green chicks.
And green chicks.
Green chicks. Yeah,
lots of green chicks. Have you? Are you more of a Star Wars or Star Trek person? There's two people in the world. They always say, there's one person who says there's two people in the world, and there's the other one who tells them to shut up. But anyway, there's two people.
I would be the one to tell you to shut up. But I am.
It's like if I say, are you an Elvis man or a Beatles man, right?
Right.
Or are you a Star Wars man or a Star Trek man?
I would be a Star Wars man just because it hit me at the right time.
Okay, right.
The original Star Wars, the Mos Eisley scene. I saw that when I was 11 years old, and I stripped the gear in my brain. I honestly did. When I saw the collection of aliens in that bar. We've all seen, the dude in the plastic mask from prior movies. Okay, he's wearing a plastic mask. He's scary. He's a creature. Fine. Mm-hmm. But when I saw Mos Eisley Cantina, my brain just exploded. And part of it was, oh, wow, look at all this stuff. And something way in the back said, hey, kid, you can do this stuff if you want to. See what happens. Yeah.
Amazing.
And that is pretty much where I changed from doing watercolor landscapes and flower pots and drawing to I'm going to draw a hammerhead. That's where I stepped into sci-fi.
I have the original hammerhead.
Nice.
From 1978, I believe.
Yep, 78 would be it. Make sure Reagan gets that.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me? She's not touching any of that stuff. Sorry.
When she
has her own toys.
Oh, okay.
She keeps trying to play with my stuff, and the last time she messed up my I bought an original Darth Vader telescoping lightsaber to slip right back into his arm because it popped out, and she messed it up. So no, she's never. I won't even let her look at those figures. But
you can sell her off and just make another one, right?
yeah.
I hope Bronwyn isn't in the room. She's gonna pound me.
Oh, I think she's jerking around on the computer in the other room.
Oh, okay.
But this is actually staying in the show, so you're in trouble either way, Scott.
Oh, okay, great. I'll get a nice little message from her, asshole. Oh, thanks.
Well, I would say that Star Wars probably hit me at the right time. It was probably the first thing I saw, really. That was the, science fiction franchise type stuff. The second thing I saw was not Star Trek. It was actually Doctor Who. They used to show the old Tom Baker episodes on, what was it, PBS. The PBS affiliate in Philadelphia.
Channel, yep.
Channel 12, I believe.
Yep.
And then after that, Star Trek. The first movie I saw was with my mother, The Wrath of Khan.
See, that's the advantage of us as a kind of a generation and group, because we had such cool villains growing up.
Well,
we had Vader, we had Khan.
It's hard because I've been having this conversation lately with a lot of people, and I interviewed a couple of people for articles, and I was basically, is this nostalgia? Do we think things are cooler because we're nostalgic for them because they happened in our time when we were younger? And I forgot who it was. I think I was watching an interview with, what's her name? Was it Fran Lebowitz or Annie Leibovitz? I guess it's Fran Lebowitz. She said everything is better when you're younger. Things are just better when you're younger. You're a lot happier. There's a lot more going on. I don't know how this generation, this younger generation, comparing the stuff that they look at now compared with what we looked at when we were kids. I'm not good at judging that.
I think we might appreciate stuff from our younger days because it was harder for us to get to. We can't, 3 months after Star Wars came out, we had to wait for it to come on TV, 4 years later?
It took about 4 years. It took, I think it was first released on video in 1982, so 5 years.
Yeah.
5 years till it got to video, yes, and then it appeared on television, I think, a year later.
Yeah.
And it was a big event. It was like a big thing for it to be on.
Yes, it was. And the makings of, those were, Saturday, 8 o'clock CBS.
Yeah.
I was there. It was like, Scott, do you want to go to eat? No, I'm watching TV.
Not to mention the Star Wars holiday special. Remember that?
Oh, yes, I do. Chewbacca getting home for the holidays.
Yes, Life Day.
Yep. That's where planes, trains, and automobiles came from.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I'm making that up totally.
I love Harrison Ford's face during that entire production. He's like, I so don't want to be here.
Yeah, I know.
It's like how he looked in Jedi. I was talking to Bronwyn about this last weekend. I was like, if you look at Harrison Ford in Star Wars and Empire, he's having fun. He's having a lot of fun. But in Jedi, he just so doesn't want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, what the fuck? We're being tied up by teddy bears?
Yeah. Those teddy bears.
All right, so I'm a complete Star Wars lunatic. I'm going to give you a pop quiz right now. What is the first line of dialogue in the movie Star Wars and the last line of dialogue? You probably don't even know.
Let's see. First one is that. Did you hear that from 3CPO?
Very good.
Last line is "rar" from Chewbacca.
Well, no. Sorry, I can't award you any points for that. It has to be human or humanoid dialogue.
Let's see. Trying to go through the last one. I knew you wouldn't let me down. I'm going to say this is two you owe me.
It's what?
This is two you owe me. Han Solo.
No. Sorry.
Oh,
that's an I'm sorry. You don't get to take home the fabulous prize. It was just an Oster blender, but I think you already have one. No. The final line of dialogue is Princess Leia saying, I knew there was more to you than money.
Oh,
and then they walk off. Now, that's Two You Owe Me Jr. is from Empire. It's after Han has saved Luke's life following his incident with the snow creature.
Oh, yeah.
That's Two You Owe Me Jr. Well, your worship, looks like you've managed to keep me around here for a while. I'm sorry. I have every line of dialogue memorized. All right, let's move on to, I want to talk a little bit. I don't know if you know about the, have you ever seen the 1994 Roger Corman produced Fantastic Four?
Yeah, I saw it briefly at a convention of all places because a bootlegger across from my table had it running. So I got to see it like in its 2-inch glory and just over the inaudibility of a general convention floor. So it's easy to say, no, I haven't really seen it.
I think you got the gist, though, looking at it from that point of view.
I did.
Now, my friends over at VHS Rewind interviewed the director of a documentary that is coming out very soon called Doomed, Roger Corman's Fantastic Four. And it's basically about how they made the movie and, all the problems apparently they had putting this together because there was no money or anything like that. And it was a great interview. And also, then later on, they they actually watched it and reviewed the movie. Mark and Chris did at VHS Rewind. And I wrote an article about it because I knew a lot about this because I was involved with Film Threat back.
Right.
Mm-hmm. They released my movie Leger on DVD. Chris Gore wrote the original article that appeared in Film Threat because he was a big Fantastic Four fan. And when Film Threat was a print magazine, they put that article out. So I knew about this movie for a long time, and I did watch it. So I thought, and again, this is probably an unpopular opinion, for the money, the $1 million budget, it was like, I don't know, I'd call it the height of hubris to produce this kind of movie. Unfortunately, it doesn't look that great. The sets seem half-finished, and it looked like, somebody's flighty grandmother designed the costumes. But I don't think it was ever intended to be shown. I think that the producer, Bernd Eichinger, I think, saw it more as a rough draft for what he ultimately wanted to do. Like, I don't doubt he showed the movie to studio executives in an effort to secure even more financing and give himself a nice payday for the rights, which is exactly what happened when they, went and made the movie in 2004?
Yep.
I wouldn't put it past him. What do you think about that?
I think you're on the money for that. I did hear word that they had to make the movie to keep the rights going.
Yeah.
And this is what happens when you kind of go at something at maybe 65%.
Right.
Instead of trying to make a movie. From what the little I saw, you are pretty much on with the costumes, set design. I didn't hear much of the dialogue. I'm sure it wasn't the golden dialogue that we would expect.
It had a very campy feel to it, and I mean campy in that kind of Adam West Batman 60s version, kind of thing.
Unintentional campy? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely unintentionally campy. There was some humor in it, and then, there was this kind of, comic. There was a comic book feel to it. Probably more of a comic book feel to this movie than what would eventually be released to theaters, the Jessica Alba version. But a lot of times, movies are just a series of manipulation games like politics. There's a master plan in place for everything that is accomplished or even speculated. So Fantastic Four in 1994 was just a victim of that system, I think.
Sounds about right. Just remember the Thing outfit and wondering why did they do that.
Well, for that, the makeup, what they did, they had, because they gave that Thing his facial expressions in that movie, and they did it with hydraulics and stuff, and they applied this makeup and rub. It actually wasn't unimpressive. It was pretty good, but just like the whole execution, the visual effects in the movie look very 70s-ish. There's nothing. I mean, and this was I
put that down as a very little budget and. They really didn't know what they were doing with their effects.
Yeah, so. Well, I forgot the name of the special effects company. It was like Mr. Special Effects or something like that. It wasn't exactly ILM or anything. There was another thing I wanted to say. They were listening to commentary. There was a commentary track that they sent to Mark and Chris at VHS Rewind. It was between the director of the documentary and the director of the movie. His name was Ole Sassoon or something like that. And he was talking about... He was making statements that were just completely, in my estimation, batshit crazy. He was talking about how this was an overlooked classic and it was the greatest movie, the greatest thing since sliced bread, practically. And I'm like, what? You only had $1.5 million basically to work with. And they wouldn't give you anything more. They never, the studio never acted as though they were ever going to release this movie. So, I don't know.
$1.5 million for that movie. That's not bad.
It's not terrible, but the thing is, budgeting a movie like that is just a sin. I mean, this was like after T2, Batman Returns, things like that. This stuff was really going to take off in about 10 years. And now, look at all that. And look at all the movies that are out now. I mean, they're all toys and comic books, for crying out loud.
Mm-hmm. That's my fear of the other 89 minutes of the new Star Wars trailer, is that it's going to be 89 minutes of easily marketable cute shit.
Yeah.
That scares the hell out of me. But Star Wars is for kids. Fine. I can accept that. Fine. Jar Jar Binks. Fine. Just don't make it.
I always thought that Star Wars, the original, anyway, Star Wars and Empire were movies that were made with kids in mind, but not necessarily pandering to kids, although they are simplistic storylines, but adults could enjoy them too. I saw those movies with adults, with children, with everybody. We all loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I felt that, and a lot, I don't know, what was it, Phantom Menace was very much rigged for kids.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was about a young Darth Vader, and, you know.
Yep.
I mean, I enjoy it. I mean, I don't hate it like everybody else. A lot of people really hate that movie, and they hate the new series. I'm going to say that what's his name, Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman, they don't have any chemistry. Their performances are horrible. About the only thing I enjoyed, I really liked Liam Neeson in the first movie, and I really like Ewan McGregor. Mm-hmm. And all the old British actors who play the bad guys, you know.
I like the fight scene, Darth Maul's fight scene. That saved Phantom Menace for me.
That was fantastic.
Really
the music and everything, and then wonderful. And then him getting split in half, awesome.
Yeah.
So now we're going to talk about the Society for Creative Anachronisms, SCA. It's an international living industry. Did I say living? I'm sorry.
You did.
Oh, Jesus. I'm going by the Wikipedia definition here. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
The Society...
Living history... Okay.
All right. The Society for Creative Anachronism. Hey, how about a take two? All right, let's try that again.
Okay, click.
The Society for Creative Anachronisms, SCA, is an international living history group with the aim of studying and recreating mainly medieval European cultures and their histories before the 17th century. Quip, often used within the SCA, describes it as a group devoted to the Middle Ages as they ought to have been, choosing to selectively recreate the culture, choosing elements of the culture that interest and attract us. So it was founded in 1966. How is it non-profit educational? That's kind of unusual, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I don't quite...
Pretty much no stockholders. I think that's how they get away with that.
So if it's non-profit, they don't have to pay taxes?
Correct.
So they're kind of like a loose association of people?
Yeah. They do have a board of directors. Assholes. I'm sorry. And then from that board of directors breaks down into, let's see, I want to think 7 kingdoms in the United States.
Kingdoms? What do you mean when you say kingdoms?
These are territorials. Do
you mean like franchises? Is that their word for franchise?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because each kingdom has its own treasury or bank accounts.
Okay.
They hold events. They make money off of it. It goes to the kingdom. Then it breaks down further into baronies and very cool medieval names for local groups.
Are these divided? They're divided into regions across the country, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so because I have a friend, he was a coworker from my old job who was a member. Mm-hmm. His name is Luigi. He's a respiratory therapist, and he was a very enthusiastic member of the SCA. And he would tell tales of drunken drives to Tuxedo, New York for festivals, dressed garish, long capes, cloaks, and cowls, gauntlets and castanets, making wine from strawberries. He talked about that all the time, and elderberries, making his own mead from honey. He gave me a recipe for it, and I'm like, dude, I don't even know what mead is. Can you clarify that for our audience? What is mead? And it sounds like beer.
It's fermentation based off of anything that has sugar in it. Okay. Honey, a lot of flowers, fruit, anything. Mead is the think of an alcohol, it still has the barley or hops in it, but the honey, also everything like that, gives it a fermentation. And mead tends to taste softer and fruitier than beer.
Okay.
There you go.
So, but you say that it has hops and barley in it, so I'm thinking it is going to have kind of like a similar taste to beer, right?
Yes, it does have a. When you drink it, well, depending on which brewer you're talking to, it will have a heavy hop to it with very light, like say you're using honey, very light honey tastes, and then it goes to the other end of the spectrum where people dump literally gallons of honey into it and very little hops, so you get a very sweet tasting mead, the stuff that makes your face pucker in.
Okay. And is it carbonated?
No.
So it's not. So it's like it's like flat beer or something.
Correct. Yeah.
But you say it's more sweet. So when you drink it, are you getting? I mean, like how much alcohol? How much alcohol content do you think?
Let's see. My friend did one. About 15, I think, was typical. Much higher than regular beer.
So it will, in effect, if you don't have anything, it will fuck you up.
Yeah, it will totally fuck your day. Yeah.
Okay. So,
but
were you involved with the group to that level where you guys, dress up and...
Yes. I primarily did heavy fighting, or what they call rattan fighting now. That's with the 25 to 30 pounds of actual metal armor on.
Okay.
To protect myself because I wanted to work on Mondays.
So this was highly physical anyway. You would
Yeah.
How many horrible accidents have happened as a result of these fights?
Mostly a few finger bashes. People would wear hockey gloves. We're not as authentic as you think. And someone would take a shot on the fingers. It was mostly ankles and knees for running around. That's why we as a group never ran. We were the smart ones.
So this goes back to the whole selectively recreating the culture.
Correct.
So you're picking the things that you like and discarding the rest.
Right. Let's see. I did 15th century Landsknecht, so I picked out the really cool Kuffen / clothing, cool hat, and kind of set aside the tuberculosis, rampant diseases that ran through the encampment, and the ability to get water whenever I wanted to. So, we kind of moved those aside.
It's also the fact that one little scratch on your finger and you've got the plague,
Correct,
this is pre-vaccination, and this is why it's always a good idea to vaccinate your children.
Yep. Very true. That stuff's nasty. Ooh.
So, can you tell me what's your beef with the SCA? Go ahead and just spill your guts.
Spill my guts. Unfortunately, the honor system is used in the SCA, which means 99.9% of the people abide by it, behave, are very polite, very honorable people, but you get that very few people who just exploit it. And unfortunately, the people who are, when I was in the SCA, the ones who exploited the honor system were the ones in power. And it became quite intolerable to deal with.
That sounds mighty familiar. That sounds a lot like our own political process.
Yes, it does.
What do you have, these groups of ultra-powerful people lobbying to get certain things done, and then basically it's just kind of like a ruse to get more power, and it goes on and on like that, right?
Yes. Near the end of the SCA, I was getting into siege weaponry, ballistas, scorpions, big bolt throwers.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And me, my friend Kay and Tony, both were into it. We were building ballistas, and then suddenly this little committee appeared out of nowhere to say, okay, we're going to be the siege consultant committee people, and we're going to tell you what can be regulated. We're like, hold on, we've been doing this for like 2 years before you even showed up. Can we be a part of this committee to have our input? No, it's already filled. Well, who do we contact if you come up with a rule that we think is butt fuck stupid? Who do we talk to? Well, the rules are written down, so there isn't much you can do about it. Wait a minute. And so they did that.
Okay, so it seems like you've got like a bunch of Democratic politicians running the SEC.
Yes, you do.
And, creating a nanny state within this group.
Yeah. What happened was this committee was created because a lot of knights, that is an actual status in the SCA. You take heavy weapons fighting, and then your peers see you as a knight, a person of level, and they get certain privileges and everything. And it's in the SCA, oh, sir, yes, kiss, 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 whatever. Those knights, because they love to use a spear, a 12-foot pole, basically, to kill their enemies, wanted to keep them at the distance.
Right.
So they didn't get killed outright. Well, they hated ballistas because I could hit you from 50 yards. We got really good at that thing. They wanted the siege weaponry banned because they'd get killed too fast. Unfortunately, knights wear very nice shiny armor, and it's like, hey, that's a very experienced fighter over there. Let's shoot him in the head. Okay. So that's why Siege got...
So you're saying that this group just sort of sprang up and said, guess what, we're in charge.
Yeah, the committee, and it was closed committee, no input. From people who were doing Siege, they just started handing down rules and regulations, which was ridiculous because we first encountered Siege down in the South. And I will hand it to the South for their rules and how they handle rules. The only rule they had about a siege weapon was that everyone who was firing it had to be willing to be hit by it.
Okay.
That was their rule. They would come up, they'd look at it. So are all y'all willing to get hit by this? Yeah. Okay, fine, pass. That's how they did it. It's like, there you go. Simple rules.
Just kind of like a handshake agreement, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I would say that, groups like these are drawn to the visual. I remember not too long ago, I was thinking about a certain class, a certain civility in the way people dressed. I was thinking about 50 years. I wasn't thinking about you guys in the medieval times and all that. But you look at old photographs, old movies, it's not even nostalgia for me because this is before my time. Right. But if you look at pictures, home movies, people dressed like more formally. We assume that men would put on suits and ties just to go out to do laundry, and women wore dresses all the time. So it was a more style-conscious period of time. You have the neon and the Art Deco, and I just thought that was marvelous. I really wish we could all dress like that now.
Yeah, I'm more than willing to, I have to wear a double-breasted? Fine. With tails?
This has been a lot of fun. This has been BlissVille. I want to thank my guest tonight, Scott Frank. This episode should probably premiere, I guess, I really want to say April. I really do. I'm doing reruns because it just took so long to make episodes before I was doing it in this style.
Right.
That, but I think we'll be able to get a lot more episodes out in the next season.
Good.
And then I don't know what the hell else was I gonna say. I was gonna say something. I have totally lost it. Anyway.
Good night? I don't know.
Good night. No, pleasant tomorrow. No.
Very nice. Ooh.